I don't know if it's a doctor's office or express care, but one of them says like you must have the actual card. Oh,
you're fine.
Well, I don't know if Becca caught that you said you were going to go live.
Oh,
so we are live.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I was pretending to be shocked. I think Becca genuinely was. We're live.
Brad gave me permission. Brad nodded.
Insurance cards.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Thankfully, Becca wasn't sharing any like super personal stories.
And since I can't carry my insurance cards, let me state what my social security number is.
We can just write it down and keep it with you. That works too.
I'm driving my kid to a field trip on Monday, and in the permission form, they ask for your birth date, your social security number, your driver's license number.
No, I'm not sticking that on a paper and sending it to school with my 6-year-old.
I didn't. I just like left off anything that I did not want. I'm like, nope, they can ask me.
What could they possibly use that for?
It's probably
stealing your identity.
Background check or something, but they're not going to background check me in like 48 hours.
You're driving kids.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't come in. There's different tiers at our school, and if you want to do stuff like that, you have to be fingerprinted. You have to be like a certain tier.
I think that's just you, Amy, because you look really sketchy.
I haven't done it.
They have. Oh,
Henry did it. Yeah.
Oh,
he does look last year, so I had to go through a lot of like the trainings and stuff, and I think they did a background check. I think. Yeah. So I didn't have to do any of that.
But like when you're a certain tier, you only have to do it once. It lasts like your all of your children, all of their education. So you only do it once. But like you get fingerprinted. And I mean, if you show up on any registry, they're going to call the school.
Interesting. So this is what I have to look forward to, huh?
Yep.
I'm excited. Yeah. I guess it'll be okay.
It's also like good that they do that. Like, I'm glad that they do all that.
Yeah.
Guess you'd rather do that than not do that.
We're not going to talk
but
about
don't, that. But don't write your social security
I can't talk about that.
On a piece of paper. It's amazing how you have like places write down your credit card information. Like the vet keeps our credit card information on a piece of paper that they wrote.
That's nuts.
Under the keyboard.
Yeah, like and they're like, you want me to use the card on file? Like it's this official thing.
Oh no!
You mean like the handwritten note you got back there? Sure.
You saved under your keyboard.
Please do, and also
if anybody wants to steal credit card information, go break into the vet.
Yeah, it's amazing how like not obvious that is to some like company. Like this is a business; they've been around for a long time. I guess long enough for that to have been acceptable back in the day.
Surely they have business insurance. When you fill out business insurance, you have to answer all those questions. Like how do you store? Mm-hmm. What are your contingency plans?
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have antivirus software on your computer? I mean, there's a lot.
So I feel like we need to do this.
We are doing it. What are you talking about?
We are doing it. I feel like we need to do this as if we've got a guest on.
Oh,
which is true. Because Becca's here for the first time, which is very exciting.
She's not a guest.
I know she's not, but we have to treat it for the first one almost like it is, so that we make sure all of our intros are perfect, even though they won't be. I wish there was more people here to celebrate this too, but Becca is joining us.
There's one viewer.
It's me.
I haven't even logged in.
I've got it open, so it might actually be me. We'll see. But Becca's joining us for now, and then hopefully we can fence her to stick around, and it's a good process. But the quick rundown, pun intended, is nailed it. Is I will say welcome to the podcast. I'll introduce what we're going to talk about. So yeah, whatever the title is up there, and then I will play the music, the intro music. Have you heard the intro music before?
Goose
is
yeah.
Here.
Okay,
he can celebrate with us.
Yes, Goose. And then we'll go person by person and introduce ourselves. I don't know what made up title I should use for myself this time. Oh, I have a second interview with Syntax, by the way. Huh?
Ooh,
Monday.
How was the first one? Who'd you talk to?
HR. It was just HR. Yeah.
Who are you talking to in the next one?
Scott, actually. Scott and the person he reports to. So Becca, I applied to the video creator position at Syntax. which like I'm not looking for full-time roles, except that one is like so
Except for that
interesting.
one.
Yeah. Well, and that's
No,
what I
I
told the
get that.
recruiter. He was like, "What's your interest in? Like, why are you looking?" I was like, "I'm adamantly not looking, but I'm interested in your role, like this particular one." So, anyway, we'll see.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I'll try not to make.
We losing him.
Is that me? Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, "Is
yeah,
that
I
me?"
lost.
Everybody else is good.
Wait, what happened?
That can
Did
be
you
his
lose me?
title.
There we go.
Wait, am I good?
Yeah, you're good now.
You are now.
Oh, was it not good? Is it because I was
No.
moving around too much?
Robot James.
That's probably
That's
what
your
it is.
title.
I could be Robot James. Did I turn robot-y?
Yeah, you like cut out there for a minute.
I like it.
Yeah. Going on vacation early.
Fair enough. All right, let me get the music ready and I'll kick us off. This is us just hanging out basically and chatting is the episode today. So people listening in, if you have additional questions, topics, hot topics especially, let us know and we will bring them up in the conversation. Now I have to find where the actual music is. Doop, doop, doop. There it is. There's so many sound effects that you added, Amy. I have to go to like the middle.
Didn't
to
add
get the-
those. Oh, I did add those.
Okay.
I forgot.
You almost tricked me.
I did add them. We don't use them enough.
I know. I'll try to use them this time.
Oh, I'll use them.
I'll do it. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web development and design with a little bit of zest. In this episode, we are the 4 co-hosts are hanging out and chatting. We'll do open Q&A, end of year thoughts, and anything else that comes up.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
What's up, everyone? My name is James Q. Quick, and I am a developer, speaker, and teacher.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a lead maintainer on the Redwood JS core team.
Did you just clap for yourself? I'm actually jealous because I should have.
Keep it going. Hey, y'all. My name is bradgarropy. I'm a front-end developer at Atlassian working on Confluence.
And I am Becca Harat-Weigel. I'm developer experience lead at OpenSauce. Did I do it right? Was I okay?
Nailed it. There's the
All right.
effects. I like it. It is almost
You have to
Christmas
pause
time,
it. You have to pause it, otherwise it'll infinitely clap
but I thought that was going to be the consistent background noise. I was just gonna let it run.
everything you say.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what I should do is only play it when I talk or after I get done talking. So, end of the year. That's weird. That's weird. We should save that for later.
I once
End of the
turned my voice
year.
into like the tiny little person voice and I couldn't hear it. I did not even know I was hosting a lunch and learn and I was talking super high pitched. And then somebody was like, "Do you mean to sound like a chipmunk?"
Oh,
Nope,
no.
I don't.
Wait, so was this like a setting in Zoom?
No, it's on my Roadcaster.
Oh
So my
my
kids
goodness.
must have been playing with it. And so they left like the voice changer on and I didn't know it. So I like went through the whole introduction and nobody told me.
That's like one of my favorite YouTube videos where they're doing a court hearing and the guy's
Yes.
like, "Sir, I'm not a cat."
Is the filter showed up? Yes,
It
that's
makes
a
me
classic.
laugh every time.
I love it
Oh
so much.
man. This is
Mark,
gonna be good.
I'm going to transition really quickly into meetup/events by welcoming Mark in the chat. And Mark will also be at that conference in Austin in January, which I'm excited about. I'm sad that Becca won't make it. But
Mm.
one of the notes that Brad put into our notes behind the scene was about meetups. And I'm kind of curious. So that's like a conference that I have coming up. I also applied for React Miami. And then I just got an invite. I don't know if it's like guaranteed, but to speak in Amsterdam next summer, which I'm really excited about. But Brad, what was top of mind for you on events?
Yeah, I've just been really trying to get out in the community a little bit more. Austin has like 4 meetups that are very applicable to web development. They've got Austin JavaScript, Next.js, ATX. Thank you, Apple, for doing that and freezing me. That's awesome. It catches up in a second. There we go. It's got a Remix ATX meetup and a React ATX meetup. So lots of good ones. I've been to all of them except the Remix one. The dates have just never worked out. But it's been really cool to like get out there, hear talks, meet people. I haven't gone to like, live events in quite a while. And in fact, like that conference is my first conference in quite a long time. So looking forward to it all. Yeah, and I really want to get out there and speak at one of these things, meetup, conference, anything.
Have you submitted? Like, have you told the meetups that you want to speak?
Yeah. I've been talking to the organizers. They're actively looking for speakers too, so that should be something that I could make happen pretty easily.
I had someone in Discord this morning share that they gave their first talk. It's a member in Learn, Build, Teach, and that they were interested in doing more. And we talked about having them do a presentation in our developer show and tell. So we haven't done this like super formally and regularly, but giving a platform to people who want to do that sort of thing, talk about a project that they worked on or prepare a talk or something like that, hopefully in like a safe environment before maybe doing something in person or in addition to it, just for extra practice.
Yeah. And I was like,
sorry,
ahead,
I was gonna say, we do it at Virtual Coffee too. Like we have lunch and learns. And so I know that there are like a couple people in the group at least that kind of use that as their first practice before they do a conference talk. So they'll do the lunch and learn, have questions, get feedback. And I think actually that was before I did that conference, Wisconsin this summer, that's how I did it too. So it's nice to like have that early feedback in that small group of people that you can present it to and then go ahead and do it in front of a live audience.
Can you give us first time on the podcast? Want to make sure people know all the things contextually for you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Virtual Coffee?
Yeah, sure. So Virtual Coffee is a community of people in tech at all stages of their journey. And we get together a couple of times a week. Once is on Tuesday, once is on Thursday. And then we have a Slack where there's a lot of different things that are going on in there. So our mission is to make meaningful opportunities for learning, leadership, and contribution for everyone. And we do that through things like lunch and learns, monthly challenges. We also have a podcast and a newsletter. And then we have what we call coffee table groups, which are like small interest groups around certain topics. Like right now, it's really popular, the job hunt and accountability buddies, which is about accountability in the work that you're doing. So that's just a brief overview of the things we're doing. Hey, Todd.
This segues nicely into another bullet point I had. I know you do some work with OpenSauce, and I don't know exactly what you do. Now I see your title. You're the DevX lead, but I want to hear more about like OpenSauce and your role there, just so that myself and the other listeners can get to know you a bit better.
Yeah. So at OpenSauce, we're a really small team, we're a startup, and we focus on empowering both like maintainers and contributors in open source. So whether that's like determining whether or not the project is healthy as a maintainer or to contribute to as a contributor, the idea is just to continue to make it a positive space for people to grow and to grow that open source ecosystem. And then to be able to connect people together and identify like, okay, where are the strengths here? Like, what is your strength as a contributor or a maintainer? And so a lot of the stuff that I do is I do a lot of writing, and my background is actually in writing. I was a college English teacher. I spent 10 years teaching college English before moving over into tech. So lots of blog posts, documentation for the product, guides, things like that. Do a weekly Twitter space on Tuesdays. A lot of product feedback and then networking with other people and contributors. So there might be some small amount of coding that I'm doing, but a lot of it is largely based on like, how do I empower people to use our product and to take feedback and to put that into issues and things like that.
Are there any like really notable repos that you work with, either on the maintainer side or the contributor side, that you're like particularly proud of, or they're well known or something like that?
Redwood.
Hey, that's good.
Well, I have a newsletter that's going out for OpenSauce on Monday and kind of like talking about looking at the landscape in open source overall. It's like really fascinating to kind of like get that understanding. And I think like Free Code Camp, I don't know how many years in a row they've had the most stars out of any open source repository, but it's just, I can't remember. I want to say there's like 250,000, but I might be wrong there. But it's like fascinating to see that, and then to talk to different maintainers to kind of gauge like where they're at. Even I think we talk a lot about the contributor journey, but like the maintainer journey is its own thing, because there are different ideas about like, okay, is this a healthy and good project, or is how are we looking at the future of this project and sustainability? And the answer is like, the answer to that is often we're not looking at that. We're just going because we feel like we have to go. And so then like, obviously that's going to be a problem down the line for a lot of different projects out there. But it's just like kind of interesting to really dig into like what makes open source good and useful and sustainable.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, anybody here, have you published an open source package that you would say you're like maintaining, not just throwing out there for the world to see? Anybody?
I've published one just from learning from you, but I've never, it's not big enough for me to actually like maintain it. So no, I'm probably the least open source experienced person here, to be honest. Amy, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I don't have any packages, but I do have public repos that people have contributed to. And then obviously my day job.
Yeah. Yeah.
No big deal. I have been doing a lot of updates on my Astro course though. So Astro just released their version 4.0, which is fun and exciting. Also, they just released 3.0 like 2 or 3 months ago. And I was planning on releasing my course for 2.0, but scrambled to get it together for 3.0. And now I'm going back and updating for 4.0, which mainly is leaving all the content the same. There's one little like, when I show the Astro homepage, I just overlaid an image to cover up 3.0 and put 4.0 because nothing like mostly it hasn't changed. So it's not been that big a deal. But I've had like several comments and questions from people about stuff that's missing. So either it's in the repo that I'm making updates, or adding text call outs in the course to make sure like, hey, I missed this, make sure you do this. So it's definitely like a form of that. This is closed because it's a paid product, but still the same idea of like taking feedback and maintaining and keeping it up to date.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple. I have one that I feel like is decently popular. It's at bradgarropy /use countdown. And I've got some contributors there and stuff, which is cool. But like, it's small enough to where I feel like I can manage it. I can totally see like people like Syndra Soros. Like, I don't know how they do it with so many packages. There's always updates rolling in, issues. I mean, it is a full-time job talking about sustainability of open source. It's a full-time job and you have to get compensated to do it.
Look at you, 83 stars.
Woo, 83. That's pretty good. Check the downloads though. The downloads, it's like 30K all-time downloads or something. It's pretty good.
Wow. That's cool.
That would be on NPM, right?
Yeah. Or I think I've got it in the README in one of the badges.
Nice.
You had 1,000 downloads just this week.
Shit. Awesome.
Yep.
Approved. So I've got a question to turn or change the topic a little bit. I did a video on getting hired in this economy. And what that means is this economy sucks and there's layoffs and there's less job openings, all the things. And so I kind of talked through like, here's 5 things that I would do if I was looking for a job. And one of them that I thought was interesting, as much of a JavaScript person as I am, I think if I were looking for like an engineering job, I would need to add some other language like .NET or Java or Python or something big to be able to open up more opportunities. I think it's probably a little harder to just find pure JavaScript opportunities right now. I think a lot of companies are expecting less people to do more work, and there's lots that goes into that, which is not so great. But my question is, for you individually, what is a technical, I don't know if I would say gap, but if you were to like pick one thing, either technical or non-technical, what would you focus on to make yourself more hireable in 2024? Not that I'm saying anyone's looking for jobs. If you were, what would you do?
I think it's an easy answer for me. AI, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I just think not only in the tools that you use on a daily basis, you should get familiar with it. You should also get familiar with interacting with APIs for chatbots, maybe building your own LLMs, things like that. It's a big gap for me, and I can see that the industry is moving that way, so I better start catching up.
Interesting. I would have like one caveat question to that. Do you think that would be a difference maker in you getting a job in 3 months? Like, I think definitely in a couple years that would be more essential. Do you think that would have a significant impact in the next couple months if you were looking?
Probably not. And even at the same time, I don't think that, like, I think I could still stay JavaScript, TypeScript and
Okay.
be successful the next 3 months. Then if we look at it in that lens, in the immediate right now, I think being full stack, quote unquote, or marketing yourself, branding yourself as full stack is the most valuable thing you can do, because I feel like it's like 3 backend engineers to 1 front end engineer is normally the ratio that I see. So there's more backend spots. You got to make sure you're getting that full stack in your name, or like can very proficiently work with backend infrastructure, databases, APIs, things like that.
That lines up with what we've heard from Taylor, our recruiter friend.
Yeah.
And we also had Lee on the podcast a while back. He has educational material for backend developers, and he was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Find a link to that.
It's interesting.
Lane? Sorry. Is that Lane, Amy, that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to find a link to his episode.
Cool.
I think it's Lane Wagner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's boot.dev is that platform.
There we go.
Episode 105.
Yep.
Cool. Becca, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I had a Twitter space on Tuesday. It was 3.5 hours long, and we talked about AI and open source. And so it was fascinating to hear from people who are spending a lot of time there and like what they think the future of things are going to be. And there were like 2 takeaways. And like one was we really need people that are building not who are able to build the applications around AI. So like there are people that already specialize in AI, but there's not a lot of great interfaces out there to be able to use it. And so I think that goes along with what you're saying, Brad, because I think that there is definitely that full stack nature there. Like we need full stack developers, but also who have a familiarity with AI. And then the second part of that, Jamin Holmgren from Infinite Red was saying that documentation matters now more than ever, because documentation, AI is going to be trained on documentation. And so like there's this idea that, hey, let's use AI to write our documentation. But like if we look at the future of what's going to happen, then I think that, you know, hopefully if people are thinking into the future, that documentation does become a big focus now. So I don't know if I would put all my chips into that, but I feel like documentation is already one of my strengths. So I would just kind of like try and dig in deeper to that and do more like API documentation to if I were looking for something.
But just technical writing and being able to communicate in general.
Yeah.
This ties in so well to like a syntax episode I heard this morning with Faraz talking about his company socket.dev. And it kind of ties in with some of the work that open source does. It uses AI to basically like analyze an NPM package on a very holistic level to determine how maintained it is, how quality it is, how used it is, how good the documentation is, and and how secure it is, and kind of give it an overall score of like, should you consider using this package, right? And it's really interesting because the code that lives on NPM for a given package isn't necessarily always the code that is in the linked GitHub repo, right? You can publish anything you want to NPM and then put any GitHub repo link in there. So they use AI to kind of come up with all this stuff. And even he said they use AI to generate READMEs that can often be better than the ones that were written initially for the repository, because the AI can look through all the source code and then come up with like a better way to describe this thing. So it definitely has its place everywhere.
If you're interested in JavaScript AI stuff, we had the people from Fixie at the Redwood JS conference, and then they also maintain a package called AI JSX, which is interesting. So I haven't dug too deep into it, but the premise is trying to make it easier to use AI with JavaScript.
Nice.
I still have a lot of ideas of things to build that leverage that. So I started to work on this, which is a platform that will take like small videos that I record at conferences. So like interviews with people. I've done them, I think with all three of you, right, at that conference last year.
Yeah.
And I want to have tools around like editing and repurposing those, and then also searchability from using, what is it called, vector indexing
Mm-hmm.
in Zeta. So I think it's really cool. So what my plan is to take those videos, upload them to somewhere that will give me the generated transcript, and then upload the transcript to vector embeddings in Zeta, which allows you to do like intelligent AI like search on those vector embeddings. And what those do, I mean, I'm not like super technical into this, but they like give some sort of, between each word, have some sort of like weighted relationship between them. That way you can search not just on like the exact name, but also just on the idea of what's there. And I think that'll be a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah, we did vector stuff at Adobe when we were doing product recommendations as part of the machine learning process. And from what I understand, vector isn't necessarily powered by AI, although vector databases are used heavily in AI as far as their searching goes.
Yeah, I still have more to learn.
Yeah,
and I feel like every time I start that conversation, I say something and then I'm like, I don't know that I know what I'm talking about, and I should stop.
Yeah, I'm at the top of the T. I need to go deeper in there for sure.
Yep. We actually haven't, I think last year we did like a reflection podcast, like an episode, and we haven't done that. We haven't scheduled it, but really quickly, do you have any thoughts on your, like this past year, like where you are professionally or personally, things you wish you would have accomplished that you didn't, things that you did accomplish that you didn't see, like any big takeaways from 2023? Because we're now like days away, which is wild, from the new year, which is also exciting, but kind of hard to believe. So any like high level thoughts on 2023?
Well, half of us changed jobs.
Yeah. True.
That's a big thing.
Has that worked out well for you?
I mean, my high level thought. So last year at this time, I was working for a different company and I was super burnout. And I thought like, I'm going to take 2 weeks off for Christmas and I'm going to get ahead. And I just like slept for 2 weeks, which is not normal for me. I don't like to sit down. I don't like to stop moving. And at that point, I knew that, okay, this is not, maybe I should be thinking about, moving on, but I was just like really having a hard time getting started with that. And then I ended up coming back from vacation for a couple weeks and then I got laid off and it was really hard. That was the first time I've ever been laid off. But it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me because I couldn't force myself to leave the role for a number of different reasons. But I find like now I've been at Open Sauce since April and I still continue to find energy every week to keep going. And I'm like, yes, this is so exciting. I can't wait. Like I'm taking 2 weeks off for vacation for Christmas this year. And I'm like, I can't wait to come back. And so like what a difference it makes. And I think that sometimes we underestimate the impact that stress in a job has on our ability to be productive, to self-motivate, and how it impacts the rest of our lives. So it's like, it's not just with work, but it's outside of that too. And so I would say, looking at this past year, I'm really grateful to realize that now in retrospect and to understand like this is what happens to me in these situations. And like I can do really well given the right situation. And so sometimes you feel like I failed, but that failure shouldn't be on you because there are the circumstances around you that don't allow you to succeed.
Dude, that's so good. I love the last sentence that you said, right? It's like you just might not be in the right place to shine. I've changed teams 2 times at Atlassian looking for the right fit. And it's so hard to convince your manager, like, trust me, I'm really good. You just like the work that you're putting in front of me has no bearing on what I do well, things like that. So you have to be in the right place to succeed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, just to say it doesn't even have to be companies, right? You can change
Yeah,
teams. So especially if you like your organization.
Yeah. Let's see. For my last year, I'll kind of go next. It's been like a weird year of dynamics, I would say. I earned the most side income that I've ever earned, but I've also coded the least in my free time that I ever have. I played a whole lot more video games and hung out with my family and stuff. And so it's really weird to think that, like I haven't been applying myself as hard as I used to, yet at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of success. So what that says for my next year, I have no idea, but it's constantly a battle of waking up and being like, am I going to like either crush this day, and like get a bunch of stuff done and be productive and dedicate myself, or am I going to like enjoy this day by, exercising or hanging out with my family or playing video games? And it's that constant battle. And I don't think I'll ever be able to make that decision. It's so hard.
Really quickly, I'm going to interrupt. We just had a raid from Corey, who is at All Zero. Also, Just T, who's in the chat, is at All Zero. I almost said both former colleagues. Corey and I, unfortunately, did not overlap. But I feel like I also still work with them because Jess works with them. And I get to like sit behind the scenes in their meetings that they don't know about. But anyway, I think they were doing well, actually, I don't know. Corey, were you doing Advent of Code stuff? That's what he's been doing. And Just T had been doing some of those as well. Anyway, let me know how the stream went. Let me know what you covered. It's good to see you. I'm excited that Corey is back into streaming because he's one of the best personalities on streaming, to be honest. And he's a ton of fun to watch. So if people haven't already, please go check him out. We are, for context for everybody, this is first time with 4 co-hosts, which is a lot of fun and exciting. And we're just kind of chatting. We don't have a super formal schedule. We've got some topics that we took down beforehand, but we're open to ideas and questions and what's going on in the community. If you have thoughts and topics right now, we were just kind of reflecting on 2023, and then we'll get into some other stuff as well. Vinny said I'm creeping on Osiro. I am. I get to hear. I mean, we talk about everything together work wise, so I get to hear all the things. Just know. I guess I don't know. Amy, did you have any thoughts on year 2023?
Yeah. So I changed jobs as well. Actually, exactly like my year split. I changed jobs June 1st. Actually, does that count? I don't know. So the first 5 months, there's Henry, was at Zeal doing consulting work. And then the second half of the year was Redwood working in open source. And it's just a completely different mentality in terms of what you're doing and how you're approaching the work. So whereas I was trying to help a team and do billable work and work with clients and create side projects there to create additional revenue streams at Redwood, because we are open source and because it is a sponsored project through Preston Warner Ventures, it's just a different mentality in terms of how you go about the day-to-day work and what those goals are, because it's not like I'm trying to put in like billable time, but we are trying to move the needle forward in the framework and the community and trying to raise awareness and all those things. So it's been a completely different role, but it's been a very good role. And I'm so thankful for the team and just the things that I've learned even within the last 6 months. So it's interesting, Brad, hearing you talk about just kind of that work-life balance, because we do have people literally all over the world in several countries that are core maintainers that are contributing, and was even having a conversation with one of my friends yesterday who's in Sweden, and he was talking about just Americans versus like Europeans and our approach. And I was like, I'm so naive. I don't even know what this means. So he was just like, well, you would probably view us as not having a good work ethic and super lazy. And
I'm not agreeing with that, to clarify. As I say, I've heard other people have their perspective about the way Europeans work because they have more vacation and stuff. Just to clarify, I'm not like saying that is the thing.
Sure. And then he was, and and like no respect for your boss and structure, things like that. But he was like, but then we look at you guys as like, basically when you go into the workforce, it's like you've joined the military and you're super regiment, you like work to live and everything's focused and revolves around work. So it's just kind of an interesting conversation. And I know like you saw Henry walk through earlier, we've had conversations, even what that looks like in our household and the amount of work that I do, because the hard part is, for me at least, work is a hobby and it's something that I would choose to do. It's not because they've said you need to work. It's because I'm like, oh, I want to solve this problem, or I want to help this person, or this is a creative outlet for me to create this YouTube video. And so trying to find that balance overall with what that looks like with our family and being present and all those things.
Yeah, I was driving down the street just this morning and I don't know, like my mind started wandering and I was like, we don't have to live this 9 to 5 every day thing. We have money in the bank. What if we bought land and moved out there? And your mind just goes, or it's like, we could just have a farm and have animals. And it just spirals after that. Yeah.
I cannot do that. Like,
I'll go sit back down to my computer. Thanks.
I know. I was like, I'll just do this instead of like having to milk a cow or dig in dirt. Like I can't do that.
Yeah, but there's nothing that holds us to that, Like you can live life however you want, but yeah, it's just the way it goes here, I feel like.
Like, James, I'd be interested, how would you say your schedule has changed since you are self-employed?
I was planning on taking a different perspective, which also relates back to the same question, which is having a baby. And that was my big takeaway from the year is how things have changed after having a child. But work schedule, like, I don't think it's changed very much, to be honest, being self-employed versus working for a company, because I've been fortunate enough to be at companies that had a lot of flexibility at all see your own planet scale. And it was work from home. There was no like, you used to be online from 9 to 5 type thing. Like you get your job done and that's what matters. I will say I have less meetings and that's really nice. And I still have an annoying amount of email, but I have less email and like Slack messages and stuff. But in terms of like just how I work, it hasn't changed that much. I think there was a little bit before of also maintaining the side stuff. So like maintaining my YouTube stuff while working full time in a company. So there's a difference there of sometimes or on a regular basis, I would wake up earlier to get something done before doing kind of regular work stuff. And now it's just all one, which is really nice. And I feel like work-life balance and family-wise, we've been really lucky. So we have right now a nanny in-house 3 days a week. And that means that after we get done recording the podcast, like I can go and sit with Jamie and I can hold her while I eat lunch or feed her or like whatever. So we can be around her most of the day. She's about to go to daycare for 2 days a week starting in January, which I'm like torn up about, as you can probably imagine. But I feel like the balance is it's just worked out really well. And having two of us that work from home, that have flexible schedules, being able to have a nanny in the house, that it's just made it a lot of fun. And we get to spend a lot of time with Jamie. So yeah, anyway, I think back to your original question, it's pretty much the same for me, which I really enjoy. And I think it would be so hard to go back to like an office 9 to 5 type role. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And that's what the majority of positions are. But after not doing that for so long, it would be so hard to try to do that.
Yeah, the whole in-office thing, I feel like, is out of the question for me anytime in the future. It's just not going to happen.
So I've worked at home for 10 years and almost 11. Actually,
so many
11
years.
I know, I'm old. And I think back, to working in a building, having to commute in every day. And there's parts of me that still miss that. Like I love being home and I love the flexibility, but I miss the like built-in downtime of coming home and like even just the drive. Okay, this is my decompression time. Instead of just like walking into the next room and it's like, okay, I've got to switch gears. But also
good time to listen to podcasts like this one. Like and subscribe.
Smash that button. But also just like the camaraderie that comes with working with a team. Like I miss going out to lunch with them and I miss like talking about things like, oh, I need a break. So I'm just going to walk next door and see what somebody else is working on. Maybe I can help and contribute it to what they're doing versus like now it's a completely different conversation. If I've got to jump on a Zoom call and share my screen, that's different than just walking next door and looking over somebody's shoulder. So it's a different type of work, and it'll be interesting too, just to see long-term how that affects people now that are just now graduating from college. Cause I remember like my first job, I worked out of a house. It's like a residential house on Music Row in Nashville. And so there were 5 guys in this room. And anytime I had a question, I would just kind of pivot and ask them a question. And so people that are just now graduating, they don't have that benefit of, I'm just going to turn over and say, hey, can you answer this? They've got to go to Slack and wait for that person to respond, or be intentional about scheduling Zoom time, or, you know, whatever that looks like. It's just a completely different curve for trying to learn and integrate into job culture stuff.
I just want to echo kind of like what Mark said in the chat. I noticed that work from home, I work way more. And I know for me, it's like that the challenge is to turn it off, right? Because when you work from home, it's like you're always at work. And I've been working from home for 5 years now. But it's still that challenge. Like I need to not open my computer. It needs to stay shut, even if I have this one idea where I know I could do this thing. So I like struggle with that side of things. And it is that I do work more in a good way. Like I'm really productive throughout the day, but I also work more when I shouldn't be, like when I should have boundaries. Like,
Yeah, my situation with the Atlassian office is probably like the worst of the in-office situations because none of my teammates are here. They're, all distributed because Atlassian was a remote first company. So they built an office in town, but going there gives me no benefit other than, a free
Just
lunch
stay
in
out of the
a
house.
cool office, right? Yeah. So
I'd
all the
take a free
benefits of
lunch.
talking to somebody next to you is like just gone. So going there is like almost oddly more isolating because everybody who is there has nothing to do with your job. Completely, they may not even be engineers, right? So doesn't give a whole ton of benefit to me.
Is that every team or just your team?
Every team. Yeah.
Okay.
Although I do feel like in Austin specifically, there's a decent amount of support engineers.
Someone had a good comment in the chat about separating out your office and living space. And that being like and I've heard people talk about this before, like having a clear delineation of this is the space that I do work and this is the space that I don't. That's definitely got mixed for us. Like our nanny doesn't get here until 9:30 in the morning. So we both are trying to do some stuff before then. So I spend a lot of time now with terrible posture, laying on the couch, sitting on the floor, holding Jamie, rocking Jamie, feeding her while also like doing these other things. And my back is probably going to like really pay for it. But it gets a little bit harder to not mix those when I'm trying to get some of that time back too. So that's been an interesting challenge. I wish my ideal scenario is I'm close to a nice office with free lunch and I don't have any requirements of going, but I do have people there that I would enjoy being around so that I could have that. I say once a week and then I think about it, I'm like, that sounds like too much. Like once or twice a month, which sounds dramatic, but I think that would be the perfect scenario for me.
That's about how often I go in. And if I could change one thing about it, it's just put some coworkers here in town and then it would be perfect.
That's the way Henry's setup is. So even though they're a remote team, everybody lives here in the area. So they still will go in once a week, both his team and then the managers, and have different meetings and things like that.
That's pretty cool.
Do you care if we switch to, I've got some questions for Brad on a technical note.
Oh, are we a tech podcast? Let's go.
Sometimes it's mostly no, but occasionally. But these are all relevant topics: hiring, work from home, all the things. Brad, you've been working on a migration of your site to Remix, and you've had some issues with caching. And I still don't understand caching because caching, and I assume you giggle because you're still struggling with it, or like you've been struggling with it. But I don't know where caching actually happens because it can happen in a few different places, I believe. And I think you've learned more about this, but tell us more about what you're working on and the struggles that you've had, and maybe some of the things that you've learned.
Yeah, caching is confusing. Okay. Backstory. I converted my website to Remix a long time ago, but never merged the branch. And then, like I said, I haven't been doing coding outside of work for a long time. And now I'm like, it's the end of the year. I'm going to be super productive. And I like did the migration in like a week, and it went really well, really fast. But the one issue I was running into was the homepage of my website, bradgarropy.com, hits the YouTube API to pull my latest videos in. And YouTube gives you a quota of 100 API requests a day. So
no matter what, even if you threw money at them.
I don't know. I'm free, so who knows?
I was going to say
you figured that, but I'm just
definitely
saying.
pay them money.
Okay.
They're not going to turn that down.
Remix is server-side rendered. I was running a Next app, which was statically generating those pages. But I'm like, no, this is great. Remix will be server-side rendered. I'll always pull in my latest videos when the user visits the website. Which means you hit my homepage, and it makes one request to YouTube every time somebody visits the homepage. So you have to find a way to cache that information, store it elsewhere, and not hit the API so many times. And I asked on Twitter, and James and other people responded, well, write a cron job that stores your YouTube information in a database. And I'm like, there's no way that we need to bring up infrastructure just to cache a response, right? At the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do is cache this API call to YouTube. So I looked into a lot of solutions, right? One of the places that caching happens is in the browser or even on the server. And so I was using cache control headers in multiple locations, at the page level, in my loaders, and even in like some Vercel configurations to say cache this page. And the API requests were still going through because Vercel has caches at a bunch of different levels as well. And I open up an issue, and Ryan Florence actually comments out on it. And he's like, look, Vercel is probably running your endpoints as serverless functions, which they are, in many different regions. So the cache isn't like one cache, it's a distributed cache, meaning, all over the world, when you deploy an app, you're getting the caches cleared, and now you have calls coming in from all the regions. So you're like multiplying the number of requests you might make.
100 countries, 100 requests.
Right, exactly.
You're
every time you deploy an app, you already hit the quota pretty much. So I had to get creative. And what's interesting is that they're running on serverless functions, right? Which traditionally, you probably shouldn't put stuff in memory because those functions are going to spin up and then spin down when they're done. But I decided to roll the dice and say, well, what's the lifetime on these functions? And so I implemented an in-memory time to live cache with this package just called TTL cache. And it basically just says hold a value for X amount of milliseconds and then clear it when it's done. And that's been working wonderfully. So it seems like Vercel's serverless functions don't spin down as much as you might think. And I haven't hit the quota since I deployed that in-memory time to live cache.
Interesting.
That's just, it actually worked out. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting. So one thing, I thought I got to the point where I understood serverless was actually deployed in one region. And that's why Edge was such a big deal, because Edge would actually replicate at nodes all across the world versus serverless was still deployed in a given region, I thought.
No, like imagine you make a Lambda function and you can tell it what AWS region you want it to go to. So imagine you had an infrastructure provider that says, well, deploy the same Lambda function to many of these regions. And then you have to have a DNS layer or something that, directs that user to a specific region.
I didn't think that happened though. Maybe I was just wrong.
That's my understanding, but I can't tell from Vercel's logs
if that's true.
Like where these are running. Vercel just brands it as a serverless function. So you don't really know exactly where these things are running.
Okay. So then what you implemented is you just keeping track of the time to live in memory?
In memory, yeah. So it's just in module scope. It's an object that has a key and a time to live and the response of the API. And when that time to live leaves, it drops out of the cache, and then and so I have log messages for my own sanity to figure out what's going on. Every time I get a request, I check, does it exist in the cache? So is it a hit or a miss? And if it's a hit, I log out the time to live remaining. So like I can look at my logs and see, I got a cache hit. We got, 45 minutes left. Okay. And then that expires and you get a new one.
And I'm mind blown because this is another thing I would not expect serverless to do at all.
Right? Me too. I was like, I thought it was like one request.
Yeah, I thought it spun down exactly after that. So
apparently
you're actually
not.
able. Wow, that's
so
interesting.
I complained a lot on Twitter as I was doing this.
As you do.
I shared my experiences, and I was like, well, I better put my money where my mouth is, because I'm kind of, dragging Vercel through the mud a little bit, saying like this caching stuff is too complicated. It's not respecting headers, et cetera, et cetera. And so I deployed the same app to fly.io, which is long running node servers, which, then you can guarantee your in-memory cache is going to be just fine. And Fly worked great out of the box. Like it handled all that. So there was no jumping through hoops. It all worked. Although what I need to try on Fly is the cache control headers to see if their network, respects it the way that I would think they were gonna respect it. Because then you can just rely on browser caches for it instead of like writing in memory caching solutions.
How does browser caching work? Like this is a whole, I feel we've talked about doing an episode, and I think we need to, on caching. But like browser might cache like image assets, and that makes sense. But a browser should never cache an API request, I wouldn't think, because the stuff that the API return, I would think could return different things every time, like the latest data. And do you have control over browser caching? Can you tell the browser to cache stuff?
Yeah, so that's what the cache control headers are for. So
that's for the browser.
There's a head. Well, you can put cache control headers on any request you send. So it could be to a server, or, if your browser is going and doing this, your browser respects the cache control headers. Your server should respect the cache control headers. But the difference is every hop, skip, and jump along the way might interpret those differently, or might implement the caching, or might not implement the caching. So because Vercel has caches at all these different layers, or other providers might have caches at different layers, you can't necessarily guarantee that any two hosts may cache exactly the same just because of how they implemented it. It's
too
weird.
Much.
It's weird. That's why I was like, I'm gonna write my own, and then I control it, and I don't have to care what my host thinks of cache control headers.
Interesting.
It was a wild ride. I need to like
stick all this in a database.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like,
I know. I'm just
infrastructure shouldn't be a solution to like.
Yeah. What should work.
I'm just trolling.
Yeah.
I'm just trolling. No, I love that you're like, the browser and the server should handle these things. That's what they were made to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure it out and get to the bottom. No, I appreciate that.
I'm a purist in that sense. It's like, this should work. I will find a way, or I'll die trying, one or the other.
I made an update to my Astro course landing page. So I've had a lot of fun like doing new content for the course, and then making some changes on my site. And so I use Podia for everything, and that keeps track of the content for my email newsletter, for everything. And they don't have APIs to integrate with. So, well, one piece of sad news, I just figured out that what I thought, like integrating that into email subscribes on my website, where instead of forwarding them to Podia domain to finish subscribing, making the HTTP request, and I thought all that was working. Turns out for a couple of different reasons that hasn't been working for like a couple months or maybe more. So I have no idea how many subscribers I've missed in the last few months, which is really frustrating. But they don't have like API integrations. So one of the things I wanted to do was to be able to display coupon codes. So if you type in like astrocourse.dev and then query parameter, so $coupon equals, and add a coupon, what happens is behind the scenes, I would grab that and I would apply it to the one integration that they do have, which is a piece of JavaScript that you can add to your site. And that adds the ability to do a checkout within your site and not have to check out by redirecting them to the Podia domain. And that works well most of the time. And what I would do is take that query parameter, pass it into that configuration. And then when the user actually clicked on buy, they would see the coupon in the checkout and they would see the discount. What they wouldn't see was on my pricing cards on the site itself. So they see the pricing card that says 150. The coupon's actually being applied behind the scenes, but they don't see that take place until they open the checkout. So I added logic to display the discounted number in the card. And at first I started by hard coding coupon code to discount. And then I realized that this would be in my source code. And one of those, there's one left of a free coupon that I think has been used now, so it's no longer valid. But one of those was 100% discount. So if I just check that into source code and anyone happened, which I mean, whatever, if they happen to go through and look and find all the coupon codes, they could just give them out and use them. So I decided I would use a database, Brad, that you were trying to avoid. And it's kind of annoying because Podia has it all set up to support coupons. They know how long they'll last, how many times they've been used, how many times they can be used, all the things. And I have to keep track of my own version of that in my own database so that I can display stuff on my site. So it's a little inconvenient. But all I'm tracking is like coupon code to discount price. And then what I do, I'm using SSR for the page. There's a fun bug in there that I didn't find for a while. But it will grab the query parameter. If it's there for the coupon, go out to the Zeta database, grab the discount and apply it. So it actually shows on the pricing card too. So I'm really excited about that. I was very excited about it. And then I realized that the JavaScript for Podia for someone else wasn't loading. So when they click the checkout button, it wasn't applying the coupon. It was redirecting them to podia.com where it didn't have the coupon, which is really annoying. Anyway, I thought it was super cool. It does take infrastructure. It took setting up a database, but it was pretty low effort and added some nice functionality. And it's something I can replicate, I think, in future landing pages, websites that I do for future courses. So it was a fun process.
That's cool. I've heard coupon systems are way harder than you actually think until you start implementing it.
Yep. Yeah. And I just can't tie into actual things like usage. I don't have that. So I can't. So if you apply a coupon right now, if it's in my database, whether or not it's expired or whatever, if it's in my database, you'll see the discount, but then Podia won't honor it when you do the checkout. So it's not perfect, but it does enough to give the basics of what I need for now.
Yeah, anytime you're stitching two systems together and you have to duplicate data, the worst, because they're not giving you the visibility into it essentially.
Podia would win a lot of points if they had an API, a lot. They do not.
There's even more.
Huh?
I have a giant list of things.
Oh, things for Podia.
Yeah.
I still have not moved off of it. It's so good for so many things.
Best. I think it's the best that's out there.
But then they have some of these ridiculously small things that's and Amy's talked about these specifically too. Here's one line of CSS or
I've even sent their
blah,
support
blah, blah.
team.
Right.
Just please add this.
Just add it. Yeah.
I'd open a PR if I could.
One of the downsides. But for the most part, it works out well. Anyways, we're getting close to the hour. Do we want to? Someone asked if we had things that we were looking forward to in 2024. Do we want to do a quick round robin before we close out of something that we're looking forward to next year? That means I'm putting you on the spot for you all to think about it. Do we have an awkward pause sound effect? Hold on, let me look for this.
We need one.
We should.
No, that's not fun.
Crickets? Is there crickets somewhere?
Oh, you did them.
Oh, here, people are laughing.
No, see, you need to go for this, while we're thinking.
Okay.
Like dance music or something. Lo-fi. Night driving. I'm looking at. There's not a good. This would put me to sleep. There's not a good Jeopardy waiting music. Elevator music.
Okay, I think I got something.
Okay, go ahead, Brad.
See, it worked.
Yeah, we just had to wait 5 minutes playing around with sound effects.
I think for me, I think it's next year is going to be finding a better balance of, like I was saying, just enjoying life and time versus applying myself to side projects and coding on the side. Because I want to maintain that momentum that I have in the projects that I'm maintaining and building on the side. And then I think like a second thing that I'm kind of driving towards next year is I want to do talks. So I'll start probably at these meetups and then give it a crack again at submitting some conference talks as well.
I can go next.
Do it.
Thank you for the crickets. I think one of my biggest
that was
things.
me.
Oh, that was you, Becca? Oh, nice.
I didn't know you'd be able to hear my crickets. I got a cricket button.
Nice. Did you already have that loaded?
Sorry. Yeah. There's like, it comes with a bunch of preloaded ones. So
Sweet.
I can also
Classic.
hopefully that turned off. So some of them automatically turn off and some of them don't. But I don't have my headphones connected into the Rodecaster, so I can't hear them through my AirPods. So I never know if I've hit them or not, or if
It's
they
over?
continue to go. Yeah. Sorry, you can go. I'm done with my sound effects.
This is half of the podcast anyway. It's just playing around, so you're good. I think next year, I talked about this a little bit in diversifying income as a full-time content creator. So the majority of the money I've made has been on sponsored content, and I do enjoy that, but I want to do more from courses and from paid speaking opportunities. And I think the biggest opportunity right now is building up the course stuff. So I feel like I'm really happy with the way that the Astro course turned out, and I want to just continue to do that on a semi-regular basis and continue to build that. So I'm really excited to be able to invest more, focus long-term. And I've kind of talked about this in the past of focusing on long-term sustainability. And I feel like I still am kind of in that position of kind of on the grind of like cranking out stuff on a regular basis and not investing enough in the future. So that's one of the things that I am specifically going to try to do better at and looking forward to see what that's like. And I think that's kind of the epitome of being full-time for myself is like, what am I capable of doing? What am I capable of accomplishing and building? And it's not just doing a YouTube video every day or every week, because I've done that for years. That's not the hard part. The hard part is, can I get better at marketing? Can I get better at creating things that people use? Can I get better at creating value and growing more awareness that way? So I'm excited to spend more time focusing on that.
Becca, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think probably what I don't know that I'm excited about it, but what I'm striving for next year is organizing the things that I'm doing, because a lot of what I was doing with my job is just trying lots of different things. And I've been there since April. We've grown a lot and have a lot of new things but now there's more of a clear path of, this makes sense. This is how I'll be productive. And so then kind of like looking at those things and breaking them down into different tasks. And then like also applying the same thing to like after work as well. So right now I just like juggle lots of things and grab whatever I can at the time. And so I want to not juggle. I want to know which ball is coming at what time, and then be able to do the things that I need to do, just so I feel like, okay, I've got some sense of control. I don't know. I've got 4 kids. Can you ever really have control if you have 4 kids? But just like getting into that mindset of like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to know this is what I'm going to do. And I'm not just reacting to things.
I like that.
Yep. That's the kid reacting thing is a big piece of it. So today my kids only have a half day, so I'm just expecting them to bust through the door any minute. For me, I just have several things that on the horizon that I'm super excited about that I want to try in 2024. There's things that I was doing that I kind of strategically stopped doing that I picked back up kind of towards the end of the year. Like I hadn't posted on my YouTube channel for 2 years and started doing that again, which has been really fun. And then kind of like if there's content pieces or like apps or demo apps or things like that I can build, I'm really excited about those pieces. But the part that I'm still not 100% solid on is all of the strategy around it. It's like, yes, you can do all of those things, but is that necessarily the best thing or what I should be focused on? And then to Brad's point, like, how does that mesh up with the rest of my life? And trying to raise a family and all those things. So, still trying to find a balance and figuring out what should have my focus. Seth Godin, who's a really famous marketer, he talks about small bets. And so trying a bunch of different stuff and putting small bets, which is also good. But the only way that small bets work is if you also let go of those small bets once you realize that they're not going to work. And that's also something that I sometimes struggle with. It's like I had this idea and it was so good and it's kind of precious to me, but getting to the point where it's like, yeah, it's not the thing, it's not my thing, or it's not the time. And trying to figure out what that looks like is still something I'm trying to iron out.
Sounds like there's some overlap, I think, for all of us. Still prioritization and figuring out what's the best thing. And I feel like the big takeaway is we've all also spent a lot of time doing that throughout our career. I think like we've talked about in conversations individually with each of you. I think we've all talked about this in the past, and it's still something that we're working on. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's I don't know. I have had people comment on like, oh, you must be really good with your time or something. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. And I should be
It's all
so
an
much
illusion.
better. Yeah. I'm glad that you think so. That's really nice. But the reality is not. Like, I feel like every day I'm really trying to get better at that. So nice to know that we have some things in common that we can work on. Maybe we can have an
Accountabilities.
Accountability
buddies.
Yes. I like it. We're over on time. Do y'all want to do we need to do picks and plugs? Do you want to skip?
We can skip.
Okay, cool. Goose says, in reality, James is a hot mess. Agreed.
We knew that.
If only you knew the behind the scenes. It would be really funny if I like turned my camera around and there was like a zoo in my office or something.
I always want people to show like what in your office do I not see?
Yeah.
No.
You want to see the other side of my office?
You may
I can do
not.
it real quick.
I was in a meeting the other day and I said, will you just show me your
no, I
desk?
can't.
I just want to see what your desk looks like.
My desk
Oh,
is
the
a
cord is too
disaster.
tight. I can't turn it. I would have shown you. Oh, maybe I can do this. Hold on.
Ooh.
I really need to go though, but because we're actually leaving to go out of town, but I will try to show you this really quickly. Is it this one?
Trying to pack with a baby? Let's talk about that.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. You can just swap it to the iPhone.
Okay, so you got your Elgatos.
That'll be like a new recording space once I actually like
nice.
paint, and it's an alcove. So it should be cool.
You didn't want to build custom shelves, James?
There were custom shelves and I ripped them out because I didn't like them. And I will probably build something-ish. There's
your
couch
sofa.
and a bunch of stuff. I still like haven't unpacked. Like I just got my stuff decent enough behind me to pretend like I have a real office.
So funny. Oh, nice. You got a little skylight.
Yeah. So this is on the 3rd floor. So all of the roof is angled on each side, which is a little inconvenient, but
the natural light's pretty cool though for the studio.
Oh, Inception.
Yeah. All right. I'll turn that off before. There's a good angle. Cool.
There.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this episode. If you're listening in a podcatcher, make sure to leave us a rating or review to help us continue to do amazing episodes like this with just ourselves and with guests. We're going to have a fun mix of that. Now that we have 4 co-hosts, it should be super fun. In the meantime, that's all we got. Still haven't managed. Yeah, Amy, you'll never get this cue. I am wearing pants to clarify, like the whole behind the scenes thing. That's a plus.
Do you think Jess would work with me?
Huh?
Do you think I could collaborate with Jess to get that queue? That would be awesome.
Oh, I thought you were like offering her a job. I was like, I don't know. Like that's a deeper conversation. Honestly, anything to spite me, she would probably support. So you could probably get her on board.
Noted.
Nikki T just walked in. We're leaving. I'm sorry. I know. Also, we haven't even like talked about how amazing Becca's team is at open source, but Nikki T is a big part of that, and I'm jealous.
Are we raiding today?
Yeah, good call.
Got a raid.
Archeo.
Yeah. I hate that I never get to, because I'm always in a rush out and never get to like hang out with them in the stream. But we'll send everybody over to Clarkio's channel. Thanks everybody for being here and for hanging out and chatting and taking a behind the scenes look. And
Happy holidays.
All the things. Happy holidays. This is our last one, right? Before the year? Sweet. It's good to see you all.
See you next year.
I know. Yep. Eagle said too fast. I haven't left yet, but I'm about to. All right, I'm rating. And ending. Bye.